So let's talk about failures. What are some examples of wrong answers to these tell me about the time when you failed question? The first one would be, I really did not have any major failures recently. Or even worse, I do not have failures. Notice here, the framing of this answer is, I haven't had any major failures recently, right? So you're, from the start, disqualifying yourself from actually brainstorming for proper failures, for making them major failures and for making them recently. So you could have minor failures that could have happened, I don't know, even 4 years ago or 5 years ago if your career was 20 years ago. They must be significant, but the idea on how you should go about these failures is that you must think of events where you learned something from them. Most of the time when you learn something significant is because you had some failure there, or oftentimes at least. Let's move on. The second example here, I failed many times in my career, but I always make sure I get back on track and become an even better individual. So what's wrong with this answer? Well, what's wrong with this answer is that it doesn't is not specific as a general answer to a question. Is not a behavioral answer. It doesn't follow the STAR format, for example. It's a hypothetical answer if you want. And these never go too well in a job interview, because it's impossible for, assuming I'm interviewing you and you give me this answer, it's impossible for me to form an impression about you as a candidate based on these generic answers. So your answer should be specific or specific situation where you failed, right? Number 3 here, I failed a side gig in my previous role. It was nothing major, and it was not really linked with my expertise here. This example, of you failing of something that's completely irrelevant for the job that you're applying for, or for the reason they are interested in asking you for a failure story, is also an inadequate answer. First, because it's the first reason would be because it's not something that's really relevant to your role, and second of all, it was not something significant. So the reason why someone asks you for a failure story, between others, is because they want to see if you learn something from it. Whereas if you talk about something nothing major, chances are you didn't really learn anything from it. So it was not a proper failure. Number 4, my most recent failure was just 2 weeks ago when I made some critical mistake that got me fired. So the reason why this answer is not the best is because it's simply too dangerous. Like, I could see someone applying for a director level role communicating this in such a way that they will actually land the job. But for 99.9% of candidates, this is too dangerous to say that you made some critical mistakes 2 weeks ago and you got fired, and that's why you're applying for this role, especially for a high-performing company. Put yourself in your interviewer's shoes. Why would they take a risk with you this way, especially for a recruiter, right? It could fly with the hiring manager for very, very senior positions and with great communicators, but from experience, I would not take the risk in with talking about these things. And the 5th example I want to talk about here, my most recent failure was when I didn't get along with my boss. It was just 1 month ago, and he actually chose someone else for the next project and forced me out of the company. So it's a synonym with the previous example, that you got laid off because you've done a mistake. But here the reasoning is a bit different. You didn't get along with your boss. Again, this is a very tricky one, especially because these companies are hiring you on your ability to earn someone's trust and to communicate, to be a great communicator. And this is a very, very important behavior in these companies. Forget about the virtual interviews, the remote opportunities that this situation creates. Communication and being able to earn someone's trust has always and will always be a critical point for you to land any job with a high-performing company. So again, it's too dangerous to talk about these things if they were so recent, you didn't get along with your boss, and basically they terminated you. So all in all, you can see here these examples are, either too vague, either you refuse to answer the question, either too dangerous. So I would very much advise you to really dive deep, to quote from company's principles, to really find what actually matters and understand that they're asking you for failure story for primarily 2 reasons. First, they want to see you had the proper failure, because not many people admit to failures, but we all have failures. Second of all, what you learned from it. And you even want to go further to talk about for half of the time about what you learned from it. I'll also link a couple of videos to help you with the failure stories if you want in the video description. So hopefully you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.